I know what you mean. When you're the way we are, people make you afraid to be yourself. And most people want to be like everybody else. If we could only live in a place where everyone expects you to be different.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is really sad.
Hi, Dayelle.
Hi, Amanda.
So we're continuing our Season of the Witch with a book that has nothing to do with witches. Ta-da!
It just has witch in the title.
It has witch in the title.
Yeah.
We're doing Escape to Witch Mountain, which if you did not read that was required reading when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, like 2nd or 3rd grade.
88% of the work week is spent communicating, so it's important your team does it well. Enter Grammarly. Grammarly's AI helps teams communicate clearly the first time. It shows you how to make words resonate with your audience, helps with brainstorming, and lets you instantly create and revise drafts in just one click. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who use Grammarly to move work forward. Go to Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly. Enterprise-ready AI.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
A lot of people say that this book started their obsession with sci-fi and fantasy.
Which is crazy.
It is very sad.
Yeah.
It's such a sad book.
It's a really sad book, but I think like because of its time, this book was kind of like, it was such a new, what's the word? I don't know.
It was new to the genre for kids. Kids didn't
Yeah.
really have this like sci-fi fantasy world that they could live in. And this was written by Alexander Key, and it was published in 1968.
Which is wild.
Wild time in the world to begin with. Like,
it's a really long time ago.
Very long time ago, and also a very tumultuous time. We're coming like wartime, and it was a really good escapism book for kids. Like a lot of people that read it when it first came out said it was their introduction to escapism, like reading to escape. Because you had things that were a little bit more mature that people could read, but not a lot for kids in this way. And
this is very kid-driven.
Very kid-driven, but also very sad kid-driven.
It really is.
They're orphans. They live in this like Catholic orphanage with this very mean lady. But I love that the person that, so it's about a brother and sister.
Yeah.
The sister does not
Tia
speak.
and Tony.
Tia and Tony. And Tia does not speak. She only speaks using telekinesis to her brother.
Yeah.
And he speaks for her.
It's really precious.
It's really precious. And I remember reading, you read this when you were younger, right?
Yep.
Because I remember you saying your parents have a very old copy of this.
Like maybe one of the original copies.
And there's like a, I don't know, like a nostalgia to it. I don't remember it being sad. Did I just gloss over this as a child?
I think that's a perfect thing to say because as a kid, I don't think you're going to pick up on the sad. I think for me, reading this as a kid, or I believe it was read to me. I don't think I read it myself. I only picked up on the fact that there was like a mean person in their lives. Like I wasn't focusing on the fact that these are two children who are completely alone in the world and they live in an
reminiscent of the witches, right?
Yeah. Very similar.
There's like a mean person, a very horrific story. Why is everyone's parents dead?
I don't know. But on that note, Amanda, what are we drinking today?
Well, I read this book, watched 4 versions of these movies, and I was like, there's no cocktail that I could come up with for this.
No.
So we're just doing a classic cup of hot cocoa because these poor sweet babies, they needed
someone to give them hot cocoa. Yeah.
And for us adults, we're going to spike it with some Beaver Hill bourbon cream.
Yeah.
Which is like Bailey's, but better. So
delicious.
I just called it Free the Bears because that's my favorite part of the book. Those poor bears.
Those poor sweet bears.
And I think, too, that something like that feels like a warm hug. Like whenever you drink hot cocoa as a little kid, it's a very nostalgic moment.
It's like a grandma thing, too. So like a sweet grandma makes you hot chocolate. And before those kids went to the orphanage, they were with their
sweet grandma
or aunt or
someone.
Grandma figure.
Oh, my God. What a weird...
So cheers.
Cheers to that, I guess. Cheers to being an orphan. Heartbreak.
Tough. I mean, like, I think that's one of the hardest things is these kids kind of immediately are kind of thrown into this orphanage because the person that was taking care of them passes away.
Yes.
And it like really just puts you right into just horrible person after horrible person taking these kids. And no one really knows what they are, but they know that they're different.
And they feel dangerous because different is dangerous.
Yeah. And that kind of like encircles their lives completely. Like it kind of pushes them to the places they go because they're different and they have powers.
And I love that their powers are, he uses a magical harmonica that makes items dance and move.
Yep.
And she speaks and communicates with animals, which I wanted so badly.
Yeah.
And she never forgets anything. She has an incredible memory. She can remember things even when she was an infant. But
yeah,
the trauma of what happened to them, they don't know where they come from. And they don't know who their parents are. They don't remember any of it. But slowly as they go on this journey, she starts to remember.
Yeah.
And he can visualize places that he's never been.
Yeah. Yeah, she kind of has like dreams that are like in the middle of like a moment. She'll be like talking through her mind and then a vision comes and it's like from the past, but sometimes it's of the future. And it's interesting because they both kind of have the same thing, but she kind of like she tries to remember where they came from. And then that kind of sparks more and more of why they go on this adventure.
And they know that they have to get away from this lady because this man shows up.
Yeah.
Tia's really good at having an intuition about whether someone's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So this man shows up and they know he's bad. And they know that he wants them. He claims to be their uncle and they know that he's not their uncle.
Yeah.
He wants them for their powers. He knows that they have powers and he's very much so a dangerous entity.
Yeah. And so I always get a little bit like there's a lot going on all at once in the very beginning of this book. He's the one that brought them to the orphanage to begin with. And so they've already met this man and they know that he's not a good guy because they literally got put into the orphanage because of him. But then obviously he realizes what he did and he wants them back for his own reasons, which you don't really ever find out what those reasons are. They just kind of want them.
Yeah. Plot point, unexplained.
Yeah.
But my favorite part about this is Alexander Key, the author of this, must have been Catholic. I grew up very Catholic. And everyone he trusts in this world is a nun or a priest.
Yes.
So you have this inner city priest, Father O'Day. He's Roman Catholic Irish guy who Tony knows that he can trust him from an interaction that he's had with him. So their goal is get out of this orphanage, get away from this guy, because the lady at the orphanage just wants to send them away with this guy.
No, she doesn't care. She's kind of terrible.
She's horrific. Yeah. It's just two less people for her to take care of.
She's like, what's the Mrs. Not Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Trunchbull?
Mrs. Trunchbull. I was like, Mrs. Doubtfire.
So weird that I knew what you're saying.
Yeah. See? We were speaking through our minds.
Yeah, she's just like Mrs. Trunchbull.
She gives those vibes.
She does not want anything to do with kids. She hates kids. She doesn't want two more to deal with.
She runs the orphanage, but she cannot stand children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they run away to Father O'Day. And my favorite part is Tia's ability to speak with animals and like communicate with animals and how much they cling to her. And she has this cat named Winkie. He's so cute. I don't know. We'll talk about him more when we get to the movie part.
Right.
But essentially, Father O'Day comes along and he helps them get to Witch Mountain, hence the part
name
of this that has something to do with witches.
Yeah.
And helps them get back to their people, which, spoiler alert, everyone, they're not witches. They are aliens.
They're aliens. They don't really ever say that they're aliens, but like they arrived in a spaceship.
So as their memories begin to return, they realize that they're actually of extraterrestrial origin and that their people, having come to Earth because their own planet was drifting towards one of the two suns. Their flying saucer was shot down over Hungary, resulting in the deaths of all but Tony, Tia, and Uncle Bene, a non-relative but one of their own people, who rescued the children from the Soviet captivity. The book ties this event to the Hungarian uprising of 1956.
Also,
that's a lot.
Wait, whenever it's Uncle Benet. I'm always like, are they saying that right? Like, it sounds like they're like Benet. Like,
Yeah, like
he's French.
Yes. He may be. I mean, it's got the accent aigu at the end of the E, but
I get such a kick out of that.
it is. They eventually find out that their adopted name is Castaway, and their would-be captor Duranian, who Father O'Day earlier says that is the devil.
Yeah, which he kind of is.
He's the worst.
Horrible.
He tries to interrogate Father O'Day, and the priest is like, God's capable of creating many worlds and many people, and these are the mysteries far beyond your narrow dreaming. So
it's so funny.
I love that the badass of this whole book is an Irish Catholic priest from the city.
Yeah. And
New York City.
And there's also a nun that helps them.
Yes. But again, the nun is the one who they go on a field trip and they see this nun who
she's like off by herself.
Little old lady who is like, oh, I see your Starbucks. Tia carries this little Starbucks, and inside it's like she needs,
she always has it with her.
She always has it with her.
Yeah. It's not to be confused with Starbucks.
When you're listening to the audiobook, it literally be like, and she was carrying her Starbucks, and I was like, same, sister. PSL for life.
It's like just a little box with 2 stars on
because
it.
That's the planet that they came from that had 2 stars. Blah, blah, blah. But the little old lady is like, oh, yes, I see your Starbucks. There was a letter that was sent to me that she found that had the same seal on it that was on the Starbucks that made her realize that maybe, oh, yes, I'll send it to you and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, this poor old lady dies.
Yeah.
Which she was taken out. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, she was. She was definitely taken out.
You know how in the book they're like, oh, the kids get kind of taken in by these 2 redneck cops in the mountains.
Yeah.
Who say that Washington called them.
Yeah.
And said, hold them. They have a reward for them.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy's an undercover agent and they're studying aliens.
I mean,
he works for the
possible.
government.
There's no explanation of that either.
Explanation. Let's make this all up.
Yeah. I mean, they do, because they never really go back to that point of the story at all. Once the kids escape, that is that.
And they escape the prison.
Mm-hmm.
They make a broom, wear a jacket, dance, and beat up the cops, which is hilarious in the movie.
Funny. It is really funny.
And then Tia frees the bears.
Yeah.
And then the bears follow them.
Yeah.
Because they love her.
Because they're her friend.
And then the priest shows up out of nowhere to save them.
Always.
In a car.
He always just appears like right when they need him, you know?
Really is the best.
And can he talk to them through their mind? No, that's when Mr. Castaway comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they do eventually meet up with their long-lost uncle, who is like who the visions are kind of around. Like Tia keeps having these visions of like water, and she can't really place it. And eventually you find out that this is like the uncle who, when their spaceship crashed, it crashed into the ocean, and then they were saved by a ship of some kind and brought to the land. But for some reason, the uncle couldn't keep them, or they think the uncle died. There's really no explanation of like how they get separated, but somehow they end up with this woman who takes care of them until she passes away, or they pass away. Maybe it's a husband and wife. That's like a weird detail that is kind of not super important, but like they're with someone that's loving and then they're not. And they also understood that they were from a different planet because they couldn't talk. That was also part of it, is that these kids came and they didn't talk. And so people thought that there was something wrong with them, but they didn't know how to talk because they talked through their mind.
Through their minds. And it's a spot in like the end of the book where Tia's like, I just realized I'm not weird for not being able to talk. You guys are weird.
Yeah.
For being able to talk out loud. Most of our people don't do that. Okay. So I know it sounds like Dale and I just jumped around in the weirdest way possible.
Yeah.
It's literally how it goes. And then they made a movie in 1975, which if you haven't seen it, Disney Magic. Yeah. 1970s Disney Magic.
Directed by John Hughes.
Which they changed the storyline a little bit.
They do. So one of the biggest things is the fact that the kids talk.
Out loud.
Both Tia and Tony talk. I mean, Tia still talks to him through her mind as well, but she also just straight up talks.
And it's also the 70s, so maybe they're like, we don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
You guys are going to talk.
I mean, the effects in this movie are...
Chef's kiss.
They are... I can't... So we'll bring up Winkie.
We have to bring up Winkie. Winkie's a black cat that we talked about earlier that Tia finds, and that, like, no matter what happens or where they go, this cat just shows up.
She kind of like... The cat kind of like saves the brother in like in a moment of like, a fight's going to break out.
Yeah.
And this cat kind of comes and takes out the kid that was going to beat him up.
I'm pretty sure Winkie is the cat from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I think it's the same cat.
Fair. Because he winks.
He winks so creepily.
It freezes. It's kind of like a slow motion where the camera pans to Winkie and Winkie just kind of goes.
Here's the thing, guys. It's the 70s, like Disney magic, and it's alarming to watch.
And it was
now.
one of the first, this was kind of like breakout sci-fi effects. Like, this was a big deal. They did a lot of...
did pretty well, too.
Yeah.
It made $20 million at the box office, which is crazy for that time.
And apparently this was the most successful live-action film of its time, which is... If you see it in today's
I believe it. When that broom is beating up that sheriff, the broom with the jacket,
I can't.
%88 of the work week is spent communicating, so it's important your team does it well. Enter Grammarly. Grammarly's AI helps teams communicate clearly the first time. It shows you how to make words resonate with your audience, helps with brainstorming, and lets you instantly create and revise drafts in just one click. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who use Grammarly to move work forward. Go to Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
So then the other really big thing in this movie is the bear. There's a bear. Now, in the book, there's two bears.
They're already fighting fire with one live bear.
But one live bear, and it's the real bear. And it's a trained bear, I think. But a crazy little side story. So while they were filming one of the scenes where Tia is with the bear, and she actually in real life really loves the bear. She loves animals and she loves this bear. The bear grabs a hold of her and won't let go of her.
And that's not
the trainer is finally able to get the bear to let go. And then she still had to be in the scene with the bears. Can you imagine? This is a little girl. She's maybe 7?
Tiny, tiny. She is played by Kim Richards, playing a 9-year-old. And Ike Eisman played Tony Malone. She's tiny, tiny in this movie.
So this is what the article had said about this moment. So the bear's name is Bruno, which I think is funny. She is asked to help bathe him. Sorry, this is what happened. She's asked to help bathe him. And I would assume that this is supposed to help them build a relationship so that when they're shooting the scenes, the bear is comfortable with her around him, whatever. It was very out of the norm for this bear. Apparently this bear was very friendly. Well, he picked her up and swung and shook her, and then finally was put down after the handler got her to release.
Wait, they killed the bear?
No.
Oh, no, she was put down.
She was
when
put
you
down.
said finally put down.
Oh, no.
Oh my God, they killed her.
Put the bear put her down. But then to have to continue filming with said bear. And so I did pick up on the fact, going and rewatching this movie for this, I realized that I wonder if after that happened, because there's a lot of scenes where you see them close together, but then later on you only see them running away and the bear's behind them, or walking towards with the bears on the side. There's not a lot of them being really close to the bear.
I can see.
I would assume that's probably why.
I can see. I mean, they didn't have the child labor laws they have now for acting, so
no.
I can't imagine that went too hot.
Yeah.
But, okay, so that's the 1975 version.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had a sequel called Return from Witch Mountain, which had the same Ike Eisman and Kim Richards in 1978.
Yeah.
That was released as a double feature.
Yeah.
And then in 1982, you had Beyond Witch Mountain.
Yep.
Which was broadcast on CBS through Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And then the final in 1995, which I remember seeing this one on the Disney Channel on the weekends.
Fair.
Was the Escape to Witch Mountain, which is a made for TV movie.
Yeah.
And then, you know what The Rock said? The Rock said, we need to do this one more time.
Yeah, why not?
We got to do this one more time. And we've got Race to Witch Mountain, which was released in 2009. I have seen the 1975 version, the OG, the 1995 version.
Which is, in my opinion, the best one to watch.
The 75 or the 95?
The 75.
Oh, agreed. The 95 one wasn't bad. It had, we just talked about this the other day. What's her name? She's in The Handmaid's Tale. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's definitely Elizabeth Moss and Eric Von Detten.
I think this is her on the cover of this book.
No. Elizabeth Moss. I'll show you.
Oh, duh. Elizabeth Moss. Wait, is this the TV version? Maybe this is the TV.
Yeah.
Brought to TV.
No, Elizabeth Moss played in the brought to TV version.
Okay, so maybe this is the...
I think that's nothing.
Like, who are these people? I don't remember them.
It looks like baby Peeta Malark is what it looks like.
It really does. Well, we're not going to worry about
who's
on
that. So that was the Disney 1995 one. Great. I mean, it is more of the same. Not that it's bad. It was good.
Yeah.
But the Race to Witch Mountain, those are the kids from Race to Witch Mountain on the cover of the book. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Look.
But this is so old. No, those are different kids. I don't know who these kids are.
We don't know who the cover kids are.
This is like the copy of the book that is available. Like, I could not find any other variation of it. So, like, you know.
And I'll say
one of them.
The 2009 one, it made $106.4 million at the box office. But Jack Bruno is a Las Vegas taxi driver who has to get Seth and Sarah to their spaceship on Witch Mountain.
This is the newest one.
Obviously,
2009.
The Rock's going to do this. But also, I watched some of this.
Yeah.
Right?
I've never seen
I feel like I had to for this.
Fair.
It looks like they told The Rock, you're not allowed to work out for 8 years leading up to this film. I don't think I've ever seen The Rock look so small as he does in this movie. Maybe it was on purpose.
That's funny.
But it is literally I think I just told you everything you need to know. He's a Las Vegas cab driver who's racing up to Witch Mountain to help get them there. Their spacecraft crashes 45 miles outside of Las Vegas.
Okay.
And a secret defense department led by Harry Burke, they get to the scene of the crash in black helicopters. Men in black. Get it?
Wow.
They seize the spaceship and they search for the passengers because they want to take their DNA out to harness their powers.
Got it.
Don't worry, guys, because former mob getaway driver Jack Bruno, played by the one, the only, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Wait, his character's name is Bruno?
Jack Bruno.
Sure it's like a throwback to the Bears name.
Exactly. He works as a taxi cab driver to avoid returning to jail.
Got it.
The mob will do that to you. That's mob life.
Totally.
Folks.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And one of his passengers is failed astrophysicist Dr. Alex Friedman, who's come to Vegas to speak at the UFO convention at the Planet Hollywood Hotel.
I'm not. Stop.
You're not in love yet? I am. Okay. Don't worry because
convention?
Don't worry because after fending off two thugs who seek his services for the mob boss, Andrew Wolf, Bruno finds two teenagers, Sarah and Seth. They offer him $15,000.
They changed the names too?
They sure did. $15,000 they offer him to drive them to this unknown destination.
Where'd they get this money?
They're aliens, Dale, obviously.
Touche. From the Starbucks.
From the Starbucks.
Does she have a Starbucks in the movie?
I didn't get that far. I'll be very honest with you. Okay. So that happens.
Great.
And then Burke's men track them down, who they turned out to be the spaceship's passengers. Womp, womp, womp. We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And then, guys, driving ensues.
So you explaining this is basically us watching it. So that feels good.
Yeah. And I do want to say, we're not selling this well.
No, we're not. Okay.
It's a great movie if you watch the 1975 version. I'll even go as far as saying I didn't watch the sequel. I bet you it's really good.
Yeah.
The one that came out in 78.
I mean, it as far as like that franchise, it was like a huge movie of its time. Like people loved it. And I could see that being the case. But here's something I want to talk about, because when rewatching it, I felt very uncomfortable and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I think I realized what it was. So in the movie, the original movie, there's the scene where the kids are taken to Mr. Badman's house.
Yes.
With their uncle, right? And he's like, yes, I live here with my employer, and he has made me an apartment which will fit all of us. He has made us spacious, I don't know why I'm doing that accent. And he brings them into the house. But before that, he gives them ice cream. It's their favorite flavor.
Obviously.
Right. He brings them in. He brings them into the room. And the room is like any child's dream of that time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, these kids just came from an orphanage.
Right.
Bed is the dream.
Right. To me, this room is terrifying. It is so brightly colored, and there's like a little marionette puppet stage, and Tia's room is all pink and frilly with dolls and things, and then Tony's room is all boy stuff, and then inside their rooms is an ice cream parlor. That makes sense. And all of these things, in the movie, can you imagine the set that had to be built out for this? And it's a very short time that they're in this very fancy.
It was a very much so like don't take candy from strangers moment.
It's so elaborate.
It is so, they had to have used that for another movie.
So
because it
reminded,
barely a blip.
Yeah. And it reminded me of this moment in the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Love that movie.
But when the kidnapper guy,
oh yes,
rides in his little,
yes,
and all the kids have to hide because if they get taken, for some reason, that scene brought me back to that moment of when the candy guy is trying to lure children to his little cart to bring them to the king. I don't even know where he's bringing them.
No, it's dark. And I think you're onto something, because we're forgetting, again, we glossed over this as children. These kids are being straight up kidnapped left and right.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. And there is a moment when I was rewatching the 1975 version last week.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, whenever I watched it. But I was thinking to myself, like, this is very scary for a child. Like, it feels like an after school special.
Yeah.
Like, do not take the candy from the nice man, no matter how crazy cool the rooms look.
Well, and then there's like the barking dogs. They're like all those they're going to attack us. But obviously Tia can talk to animals. So she just
Tia's like, they're fine.
Stay. Now go get the bad men that are coming after us. And then they show the bad men. It's literally just like 5 men wearing like jumpsuits running after them. And as soon as the dogs start coming, they all just in unison just circle back around and start running down the sidewalk. And you're just like, what am I watching right now?
I love it, though. And I do think, though, I can imagine if I put myself there, we're very lucky, because by the time I had read this, I had already had Matilda.
Yeah.
I had already had my mom reading me Lord of the Rings. Like, that stuff existed for us. So this wasn't like my foray into fantasy so much. But I can totally see how like a young kid had read this book and then right away it goes right to a movie. And now you get to see this world that you've envisioned.
Fair.
And they were probably like, oh my God.
Like this was.
Whereas an adult, I'm like, stranger danger.
It was huge. It was huge then. At the very end, when the spaceship comes, mind blown.
How they do that in the 70s?
And how did they make a RV fly?
I mean, the flying RV, I got to be honest with you.
Upside down helicopter.
And the motorcycle The cop's motorcycle. They're
That's
like,
hilarious. Watching the guy's face. I would love to know the director. Okay, so you're going to watch your motorcycle slowly turn on and then slide off the side of the cliff. And I want you to look very. What face is he making this time?
well, they just had they had just like made that movie Blackbeard's Revenge or whatever in the late 70s. It was like their foray into like, not sci-fi, but like special effects.
Yeah.
And they had a couple motorcycle off cliff moments. And I think they were just like, that was killer. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
But I love that the cop is just like, there goes my motorcycle. Better keep moving.
And then the RV just drives away.
I gotta be honest with you. The RV is really, I'm glad you brought it up because it's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Fair.
Flying RV, it's fantastic. Imagine getting in an RV and being like, I want to be on the beach.
I wonder if this movie kind of helped that, like, families going off and traveling in RVs. Because it's a pretty epic.
Yeah, but would you not be so pissed if your parents are like, we got this RV,
Yeah.
just like you guys wanted, we're going camping, and then you realize you have to drive there?
Yeah.
And you will
like,
not be flying?
You're like, what? Also, there's no cat named Winkie.
I gotta be honest with you. Winkie, come on. If I had to pick a favorite character, both book and movie, it's Winkie.
Fair.
Black cat energy, man. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So.
Well, watch it or read it. I'm going to say do both, but do it this way. Read it because it is nostalgic, right? Like it is a fun read. If you have young kids at home, it's a fun, very easy read, very quick read.
Mm-hmm.
Just to enjoy yourself.
If you can see this.
It's so easy, but just to enjoy yourself, watch the 1975 version.
Yeah, fair.
I can't speak on The Rock,
No. I think if it's like, especially for kids, it's like it's a fun movie.
You know what it gives me? Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, 100%.
Remember the old Pippi?
Yes.
That's the vibe this lives in.
100%.
It literally looks like they were shot in the same week at the same.
Yes.
Like, that's what it's got. If you love old Pippi, because who doesn't love old Pippi?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the best ever.
Exactly. Nostalgia.
This is that. It is 100%. It looks like it was shot with the same camera. It's to a T what it is. Yeah.
It probably was. I would agree. I would say both. Watch it and read it.
I didn't rewatch I found it on YouTube, and I know I sent it to you. I didn't rewatch the Disney movie, though. I don't know what Elizabeth Moss is up to these days. Also kind of close to home for our girl Lizzie Moss. She's a Scientologist.
Yeah. Hey. Aliens. I think, too, like, I don't think if you watch one version, that's good. You don't need to watch all of them.
No, if you're going to watch one, do the 1975.
Yeah, and just appreciate the nostalgia of the movie. Because
when you guys see that broom with a coat just beat the shit out of that cop, what a treat.
Or when Tia decides to talk to the horse with her mind.
Oh,
calm down, horse.
So forceful she is as a child.
With her hands like on her head so forcefully, like trying to.
She always looked like she was pooping when she was
totally
telekinesis talk.
She totally did. It's impressive. Those actors were really good.
They honestly, for kids, they were acting the shit out of that.
Adorable.
And they were really cute. And they were like, it didn't look like little kids reading lines. They were acting.
Yeah, they were.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Escape to Witch Mountain.
Yeah.
To close out our children's versions of Witch Month, a book that has nothing to do with witches.
Yeah.
Except for when they're being hunted because people think they're witches. That is it.
Yeah, I think, okay, so to perfectly wrap up this episode, the best way to describe that is the fact that the people of the town don't understand these people, and they're like, they're weird. Why are they so weird? So they just automatically go to witches. And all of these people kind of decided this mountain would be their new home, and they made it their place. I think that is where witches come into play.
Yeah.
But nothing else.
That's it.
They're aliens.
That's it, guys.
All right.
Bye. Our editor is Katie Yonner. Our associate producer is Grace Heerman. Our production coordinator is Nicole Vargas. And our senior content producer is Kyle Bosch. Our executive producer is Tommy West. And Watch It or Read It is produced by Gotham West Studios.
Watch It or Read It Season 3 is almost here. We're back with brand new episodes coming out every Tuesday beginning November 26th. We're starting the season with your favorite holiday stories, Little Women, The Chronicles of Narnia, and more. Join us as we dive deep into more classic books and their screen adaptations, helping you decide, watch it or read it. See you on November 26th.